aspect. But there are others. There are other concerns as well. Okay.
So is, as you alluded to, perhaps part of the social and public issue here, a better understanding of the Bible and what it means. After all, there are two stories of creation in the book of Genesis, which is up front, which is perhaps as far as people get in reading the Bible. Do you think that modern reading, modern study, and scholarly interpretation of how the Bible evolved and how religious belief evolved is the other side of this equation?
I'm tempted to defer to Reverend Murphy on this, but I certainly would agree, although I would look back at the history of perhaps the past 500 years of Christendom, and I would suggest that perhaps expecting Christians to come to consensus about the meaning of the Bible is a hopeless quest.
Well, but I would agree that is and that's really one of the things that I was referring to earlier, that the basically more theological literacy, critical reading of Scripture is a very important component of what I was talking about. I think we probably have time for about 2 more questions. One back here.
It's a technical question. I mean, do biologists, when considering evolution, consider the time for these complex, smaller systems to combine together? Do you consider the time interval, like does it happen fast in certain cases, or does it happen slow in certain organizations?
I didn't quite understand everything you said. You're talking about viruses?
Talking about the time
complex. You were talking about complex systems.
Oh, okay.
Like, so, I mean, I was just curious, like, so if there is an intelligent designer, did he take time for some cases to combine and bring come up with a complex system? Or
yeah, well, yeah, it's a good question. I can answer this very directly in a couple of ways. We don't know how long it took for the blood clotting system or the bacterial flagellum to evolve, but we can look, for example, at how long it has taken entirely new genes to evolve. And one of my examples that I always love, I didn't show the slide tonight, I can show it to you afterwards if you like, is that in the 1970s, a group of Japanese scientists were hanging around a chemical factory, and there was a big waste dump of plastic waste, and they noticed there was growing on the surface of it what looked like a lawn of bacteria. But this made no sense to them, because what was being dumped in here was nylon polymer waste, and that's synthetic and bacteria can't grow on it. Nonetheless, there they were. And they took the bacteria, they cultured them in the laboratory, and they discovered that these were Pseudomonas bacteria that had evolved an entirely new enzyme called nylonase. And it breaks down nylon. And this enzyme actually evolved from junk DNA, from repetitive DNA, into which there'd been a little flipping around of the genetic code, so a promoter popped up, transcribed it, and then evolved an enzyme with more and more activity. How long did it take for this entirely new protein to evolve? And obviously very great selective advantage, because now the bacteria could grow where they couldn't before. Less than 65 years. And the reason we can say that with some degree of certainty is that it was only 65 years ago that nylon was synthesized for the first time. So that's one example. My other favorite example is a 7-step pathway with 7 different enzymes that breaks down 2,4-dinitrotoluene. This is one of the components of TNT. It's an explosive. This, too, was first synthesized in the 1930s, and 2 years ago, an Air Force laboratory in Florida was able to show that there were soil bacteria in the grounds of Air Force bases that had soil contaminated with this explosive residue that had evolved a 7-step pathway by co-opting enzymes from other biochemical pathways that serve different purposes to break this down. And this clearly had also happened since the 1930s. So where you have the proper opportunity, evolution can work very quickly and can produce some remarkable changes.
One final question. I'm sorry? 2?
Curious, and maybe Patricia's the one who can answer this. It was a group of parents in Dover who brought the legal suit against the school board. Is there a similar action here in Ohio? You're saying what Ohio has done is illegal. Are parents or citizens out there challenging it legally?
I'll let Patricia answer in detail, but I'll answer it quickly from my amateurish understanding of the law. To file a lawsuit, you have to have standing, which is to say if you sue a government agency saying its actions are unconstitutional, you have to first show that you were injured by that government action. So all of the 11 plaintiffs in Dover were parents with kids in the classroom either having that statement read to them or about to have it read to them. That was their standing. An ordinary citizen in Dover, with nobody in the public schools, could not have gone to federal court and filed that lawsuit. So you need some degree of standing. My guess would be that parents in Ohio whose students were being made to use that lesson plan or be testing on it would have similar standing if they wished to file a lawsuit.
Not all of the parents in Dover had kids that were in high school, though. Some of them had little kids, so you only have to intend to send your kids to the school.
Right.
But the issues of standing and things like that, if someone's interested in being involved in an action like this, I can put them in touch with the folks that are organizing. So you can always email me at evolution@case.edu, and I can put you in touch with the folks that are doing it. I don't know all these issues of standing, but I know folks who do.
I have a final comment here, I believe.
Let me take advantage of your experience with Kitzmiller in Dover and draw a couple of parallels with Ohio. The tactics in Dover were initially Buckingham and Bonsell arguing for some sort of 50-50 creationism evolution, and then that transformed into finally what yielded the 1-minute disclaimer read by administrators to school children. In Ohio, the initiation was a 2000 motion before the State Board of Education for a two-model approach,
right.
A motion made by Professor Deborah Owens-Fink of the University of Akron, a member of the board. It failed 9-5. That then morphed, and in the course of your discussion with Myers and Wells, the compromise devised by Bruce Chapman, president of the Discovery Institute, and Meyer, the associate director of the, what is it, the Center for the Renewal of Science and Culture at that time.
They decided the word renewal was embarrassing. It's now the Center for Science and Culture.
Yes, I know. I haven't changed yet.
Good for you.
And that ultimately resulted in the standard, calling for critical analysis, and then, as Mr. Latimer has been kind enough to tell us at a 2003 Intelligent Design Conference, a packing of the writing committee and the consequent lesson plan that is derived from Wells's Icons of Evolution, Behe's Darwin's Black Box, Pandas and People, and in fact our librarian has traced it back to the 1960s creationist literature. Given that fact situation, what would be your view of the likelihood of finding another Judge Jones in the federal courts in Ohio?
I know very well when I'm asked a question that is beyond my expertise. And that is exactly such a question. But I will tell you, since I've made exactly 2 appearances in federal court with judges who were drawn for cases by lot, that at the district level, I have to tell you that I'm impressed with the intelligence and the integrity and the dedication to the constitutional mission of the federal judiciary, and I would hope very much that that impression would be reinforced if any case on this issue ever got into the federal courts in Ohio, and I pray that that would be true. Thanks. It's great to see you again.
To our standard exchange.
Yes, go right ahead. And it's keynote, and